Hello to everyone who's watching. I know it's been a little while since my last video, but the reason behind that is due to the weather and also not having a garage space to work on the car. However, this time I decided to look at the cam belt and the head gasket, and I've also got a little bit of rust to repair for certification. Now, the cam belt, my one's only done 95,000 kilometers and these cars are due around 100,000 kilometers. So I've got a cam belt kit right here which I'll probably be swapping in. However, someone did say that instead of jumping around and doing it, I should actually inspect the belt first and see if it needs to actually be changed. So that's what's first on the agenda. Next after that is the head gasket. Now that takes a very long time and you also need to get the head shimmed, so I'm not keen on doing that straight away. And well, the best way to check for that is to conduct a compression test. So I've also got a compression test around here somewhere, and I'll be checking the compression of each cylinder. So while that's happening, you can also test for a blown head gasket, because you remove all the spark plugs, and if any water comes out of any of the chambers, that means a blown head gasket. Now the car's been running fine, and I think that there might not actually be anything wrong with it, so fingers crossed, we might not need to do any of that work. And the last thing I mentioned was the rust. It's only very minor, but there was a little bit of rust in the boot. So that's going to be today's video, and I hope you're looking forward to it. Right, now before we get to it, there's just one thing I wanted to do. Here we go, mega rare Heroes Racing 3-piece special. So what I wanted is the iSpeed DD, just like in Shokatan Boogie, but not to make a movie replica, but to make the car look high society. But here is a Heroes Racing 3-piece mega rare 3-piece welded wheel with bolts all around, so you can dish them out if you want. Unfortunately, it's a 4-stud wheel. The Soarers this generation are 5-stud. I did manage to find some iSpeed DDs in 5x1 and 4.3, but mega expensive, so I wasn't able to buy them. I've removed all the bolts from the cam belt cover. Now let's take a look at the belt. There's a new radiator hose over here, aftermarket. Okay, let's just pull it. That looks pretty good. There's no cracks or tearing or anything on that. It looks, I wouldn't say new, but it looks pretty good. There's just a bit of scoring along the edge. I've checked the oil, it was pretty good, even though this car's been sitting for a while and hasn't been serviced in over a year. The oil was still clear, slightly browned, had a little bit of burnt residue, which is just nothing. I checked the coolant as well. I also spilt a little bit there. There's showing in there. There's no bubbles either. Lead spark, but very easy to remove. Here is the intake pipe that goes over the top. Just need to disconnect 2 or 3 hoses, and you've got that out of the way. Unlike in RB where, yeah, there's water and coolant lines. So I've got one of the spark plugs here, and you can see it's actually in quite good condition. There's just a little bit of corrosion around the tip, but other than that you can actually see the shape of the tip of the spark plug, which is a good sign. Now we are going to compression test the car. So all we need to do is remove the cam angle sensor over here, which is a green 4-plug connector, while over here at the front left strut tower is a large plug that just needs to be disconnected. Now I've got the compression tester hooked up to the first cylinder here, and I've got a pen and paper ready, so let's go ahead and try it. It's actually a lot better than I was expecting. We've got about 130 psi by the look of it. 135. Not bad at all. Well, let's continue testing and write down the other results as we go. Okay, so down here we've got the compression tester, which is back to 0. Remember to depressurize it with the button between each cylinder, and we've got the results here. So pretty much all the cylinders were 135 psi except for the middle 2, which were slightly lower, which is negligible. So all up, I'd say that was a very successful cambelt checkage and compression test. Now look at this big mess I've got to put back together. Luckily I've got good memory when it comes to this sort of thing, so I just work in reverse, yellow plug, green plug, and then all the piping. So the last pipe I took off was the blow-by pipe, which goes back into the intake right in front of the turbo. Now we're going to head to the back of the car and take a look at the rust. So we had some orange discoloration and small minor rust appearing where the spare wheel had been hitting the bare metal. Here you can see where I've repainted it, but before repainting it I've sanded it back to the bare metal and coated it with primer filler. Now it doesn't look perfect, but it is very closely colour matched to the rest of the wheel well. Alright, that's it for my video this time around. Hopefully I'll see you all next time when some actual progress gets done. Now there is one more thing which I wanted to point out. So after reviewing all the footage, I realised that in the two middle cylinders only, I only let the engine crank 4 times. When you're compression testing you should crank it 5 times, and even in that clip which I showed, on the 5th cycle, the compression tester does jump up a little bit from 130-ish to about 135. So I'm fairly confident that the middle 2 cylinders aren't actually showing a lower reading, it's just that I didn't actually hold the key in the crank position long enough.